Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Kirsty and this is Stuck in the Mud. Thanks everyone for watching my videos so far. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because that would help me out a lot. Just getting these videos out to everyone, so if everyone can subscribe, hopefully I can help more people. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about magical thinking OCD and the impact it's had on my life, because something I've not talked about already, but it is actually quite a big thing for me because it has been there throughout my whole life. You know, I'm talking like 40 years. You know, I've spoken in my videos, you know, I've had OCD for 40 years now, and I would say that magical thinking has been quite a large part of it. So, what is magical thinking? So, it is a belief that our thoughts, our words, emotions, or our rituals can influence the 3D world around us. It's common in childhood, and that is definitely where it started for me. We often think that magical thinking is powerful enough to actually make something happen or prevent something bad from happening. You know, we think it's some kind of special power, but these are usually based around fearful thoughts that we have. Magical thinking is a subtype of OCD that is characterized by intrusive thoughts. It also involves compulsive actions and urges. The sufferer believes that doing these things will prevent bad things from happening to themselves or to others. This can generate a lot of anxiety for the sufferer, and it can be quite specific things as well. When I was a child, I had a specific thing I did. I think I might have spoken about it in another video, where I was in infant school, so I was probably only around 5 years old, and I'm 45 now, and I remember specifically repeating mummy, 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 mummy over and over again in my head. I did find starting school very difficult. I didn't like being away from my mum, and that caused a lot of separation anxiety. And I truly believe this is where the whole magical thinking began. And I thought that by saying that over and over and over again in my head, that it would prevent something bad from happening to my mum, like her being in a car accident or something like that, because when she wasn't with me, I felt like she was less safe. I felt like, you know, being with her, I could prevent something bad from happening. So if I said this thing in my head, it would stop that bad thing from happening when she was away from me. And that is how my small childlike brain worked. And I guess it got me through some really difficult times, because we use these rituals as coping mechanisms. And, you know, it just kind of escalated from there. And I think the magical thinking has been a large part of my OCD over the years, over many years. We often have superstitions. This is quite relevant with OCD, and for anyone that doesn't have OCD, some people can be suspicious. You know, there's lots of old wives tales about not going under ladders or stepping on cracks. You know, these are all the typical things you hear when people think of OCD. They think of, you know, you can't do something without saying some kind of rhyme. I know for a long time, I would be conscious of the fact that if I saw an odd number of magpies, and I would get really scared about it. I'd be like, I have to say the rhyme, you know, I have to say the whole rhyme. But what's weird is I actually became quite used to doing it, and I think it became like a habit then. So every time I saw an odd number of magpies, I would have to, you know, this type of bird, I would have to say this rhyme over again. I'm just thinking, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that's because I stopped doing it. I took a risk and stopped doing it. And even to this day, when I do see an odd number of magpies, I will, like, it's almost an urge to do it, to say it again. Although, like I said, I can't really remember it now because I've not done it in that long, but for a long time I would do that. And a lot of these are quite familiar to people that don't even suffer from OCD, but when it begins to affect your ability to function day to day and it's really controlling a large portion of your life, we need to do something about this. So we often realize that this isn't a rational behavior as well. That's important to say. But we engage in those compulsive behaviors and the safety seeking behaviors because we want to feel safe, and you can see why a lot of these things start in childhood, because magical thinking, we're not conditioned out of that whole way of seeing the world, and I think children often will engage in this way of thinking, which can be sometimes quite comforting as a child. Like I said, for my time being away from my mum, it obviously gave me some relief, but in the long run, it isn't a helpful strategy, and we need to do something about it when it's really affecting our life day to day. So the safety-seeking behaviours I am talking about here could be repeating certain actions. Like I said, for me, I was repeating certain words over and over again in my head. We can be changing our thoughts. We're doing a ritual till it feels right. I'm sure that's a very familiar one with people with OCD. We don't feel like it's right when we've done something like a ritual, whether it's turning a tap on and off or, light switches, anything, any kind of ritual. I used to have to stand up and stand down again a certain number of times. And it can often involve counting. This has been very prevalent in my life with OCD. I would have to count to certain numbers, and if I didn't do it right, I'd have to repeat it over and over and over again, which is debilitating. It really is. It's not a nice place to be when you're forcing yourself to repeat these things over and over again. Like, it can be hundreds of times, and it's very time consuming. It takes up so much of your life, and we're not living life without these limits, and we shouldn't be here because they are just making our world a lot smaller and a lot more challenging and difficult. But we just crave that certainty and safety. So we might repeat these things over and over again because we think something negative might happen. And, if something did happen that was negative, we often blame ourselves as well. This is something, important. If something bad was to happen, we can often really take on a lot on our shoulders and think it was because we didn't do something well enough. We didn't do the ritual good enough. We weren't positive enough. And this is all lies. It's not true. None of this will have an impact on your 3D material world. And the only impact it does have is, like I said, it's just making your life a whole lot harder and a lot more uncomfortable and giving you so much anxiety and stopping you from living your life to the fullest, which is where you truly deserve to be. And personally, for me, it has been challenging the last 3 years. There's been some difficult times. We've gone through a pandemic. Personally, for me, I had a baby, and then, of course, my mum was very ill. So it has been really hard. And during the pandemic, and I think others may have noticed this too, there's been a real rise in the whole positive thinking and manifestation movement, all these things. I don't want to go too far into all this because that might be something I talk about in another video, but I'm very aware in my videos. I don't want to trigger anyone or even, make someone develop some type of obsession over it, because I don't want you to be where I was. And more importantly, you don't need to be, because it's all false, and it's all hooking you into something you needn't be involved with. And that is where I got myself, because in this time, it was challenging, and I think I dealt with things the wrong way. I got hooked into many new obsessions, and that was around spirituality and new age ideas. And whereas I am a very spiritual person, I'll be honest, I'm not particularly religious, but I am spiritual, and I'm a seeker. I'm often a seeker of information, and that was really my downfall here, because I looked far too deep into things, and it set me on a path where magical thinking just took over, and it didn't lead me to anywhere good, because it just kept me locked in, and I wasn't living my life as I should anymore. I was full of anxiety and panic. And I think if anything I've learned from all this is that if anything takes me to a place like that, it's not good. And this isn't to say that I'm against like thinking positively and doing positive actions in your day-to-day life. That is a good thing. You know, when we are feeling happy and carefree, you know, maybe it's a sunny day. This is a good analogy because it's been very cloudy where I live recently, and I felt very unmotivated. I felt quite sad and depressed recently. And the last couple of days have been really sunny, and I'm feeling a lot lighter and a lot more motivated to, you know, be more productive in my day and do more things. And I've definitely felt different. But a lot of these things can make you go in, you know, you're going in inside yourself and you're thinking, well, you know, I should be more positive. Like if I think a negative thought, I need to switch it to a positive. Or, you know, because I'm thinking this bad thing, does this mean it's going to happen? Right, I better do a ritual to cancel that out. And you can see where it escalates into something very bad for someone that's struggling with their mental health. And people that maybe haven't suffered with this kind of thing before, it can lead them to experience OCD tendencies, and it's not a good place to be. And it led me to some really dark places in my life where I ended up at hospital because, you know, I was so terrified of my thoughts, of what I was thinking, that something bad would happen because of my thoughts, that would just magically happen, you know, no action needed. It led me to some pretty dark times, and I was so terrified of myself, basically. And that is a place no one should be. And anything that teaches that, it's shameful, it really is, because they don't explain as they should. It's great to have a positive mindset and outlook that leads you to positive actions, where you actually do something to create a better career, you know, better finance, better, you know, a productive life where you're living fully and achieving things that you want to achieve. But to really promote magical thinking the way I have seen it, and the way I got so engrossed in it all, and the way it is taught just to gain clicks on videos on YouTube, for example, or just social media in general, you know, all the social media pages, they will say things that just aren't true, and they don't explain that, you know, we need actions, we need to be productive, we need to make these things a reality. And like I say, I don't want to go too into it because I don't want to trigger anyone, and I certainly don't want to create a new obsession with someone, because it isn't real, it isn't true. And I'm quite sad when I actually looked into it, because I read so many people are going through the same thing with this. And it really did affect my life deeply. Like I said, I was at hospital because I didn't want to live with these thoughts anymore. And it wasn't because I didn't want to be here. I want to be here, but I didn't want these extreme obsessions and thoughts, you know, these intrusive thoughts that were just taking over my life and making me so afraid of myself. And it's all lies. We have to physically do something, you know, to create our reality. It's nice to think positive, and it's nice to have that outlook where we're achieving what we want and achieving our goals. But just by thinking something, or not performing a ritual well enough, or performing it at all, you know, this isn't going to affect your life, your 3D life, or reality in any way. We can think anything. Any thought is allowed. it doesn't affect us. The only way it affects us if we start to get involved with it, and it gives us a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of frustration, anger. That's affecting us. But it needn't, because we can let that thought be there. Even the scary ones, let them ride out. We've got to coexist with it. And it's going to feel uncomfortable at first, because I really had to do this, and this wasn't like perfect. I didn't just like suddenly think one day, right, I'm not getting involved with them. It's been very up and down with me the last 3 years. And it's been very scary at times, because I found myself, probably an age-related thing, where I feel like I'm getting more intrusive thoughts. And that could be a part of life, because I've entered the kind of perimenopause stage of life, and I do feel like there is some hormonal connection there, and I felt like I have had more intrusive thoughts, but I'm trying to see that as an opportunity to practice what I know, and that is just letting those thoughts be there. Don't get involved with them, don't do a ritual, just let them coexist with me. And when I'm getting pulled in, no, it's fine, it's okay. We have to have that self-compassion here. We just step back from it, we let it do its thing, let it hang out as long as it wants, and it will dissolve on its own, and it will fade away. And this is very true, and I can't stress this enough, how amazing metacognitive therapy has been for me, because that whole detached mindfulness, it's been life-changing, it really has. And it sounds such a simple concept, but it really does work, and I'm living proof of that, because I've been in some terrible times, especially in the last 10 years with my OCD, and it's been difficult at times. It really has been difficult to function and to live a normal life. So I want to help people as much as I can to either get back on track with their therapy, or just realize that they're not alone, because it's very isolating when you're going through something like this, because you can feel like you're going crazy, and it's difficult to confide in someone. But at the same time, we can often seek reassurance in that way, because we'll ask people, is this normal? What am I thinking? Is everything going to be okay? We often seek reassurance, which in turn is actually not that helpful in the long run, because we have to show OCD that these thoughts are not important, and we can change our relationship with them. OCD will try and get our attention all day long, but if we can just ignore it and let it hang out, it's not pushing it away either. We're not pushing any of these thoughts out, we're just letting them be there. And that has been immensely helpful for me, and I'm hopeful it can be helpful for you too if you're watching this video and this information resonates with you. So I'd be glad to hear of your experiences with magical thinking. It's been, like I say, a massive part of my life with OCD, and I'd like to hear how it's affected you as well. So please comment down below, and I'll get back to you when I can, as best I can, and hopefully these videos are helping you to get better from OCD, because that is truly where you deserve to be. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.